what's at stake might turn out to be a little bit less than people expected. And I say that because, as you said at the top of the show, crypto prices have gone up, not down. And I think there was a lot of fear in the marketplace that, a settlement or a negative outcome for Binance would somehow dry up liquidity in the markets. What I'm seeing is Bitcoin is at a one-year high today, as you pointed out. Interestingly, the trading volumes on the Binance platform aren't particularly down. I think their 24-hour trading volume as of right now is about $10 billion, which is in line with their post price fall highs. So what it tells me is crypto and Bitcoin in particular have matured to a point where there's no one event, there's no one exchange that's going to collapse the marketplace. That's the good news. I think the better news is that by having some amount of certainty about the current status of the largest exchange in terms of management and board leadership and everything else, maybe we can all settle down and get back to what matters in the industry, which is building decentralized tools, building stores of value, building safe custodians, and all the things that market structure really requires. So honestly, it's a less bad outcome than people might have predicted. Well, Shanali, when you say that these are things that everybody knows, there's always a species of when everybody knows something, that's when you should start asking questions. So the general counsel of TRM Labs and I recently published an op-ed on another Bloomberg platform talking about the true story of terrorism financing versus the media reported story of terrorism financing. And just suffice to say, the idea that Bitcoin has played a major role in financing Hamas terrorism or anything else recently is wildly overblown. And that's for a whole bunch of reasons, largely because terrorists have realized that Bitcoin is the most traceable value exchange network in the world. And so it's a very bad place for criminals to hang out. I think what's really going on here is there is increasing belief that we're going to see a Bitcoin ETF approved probably in January. It won't just be BlackRock. It'll be 10 or 11 applicants going global with Bitcoin ETFs. And the way that I think about that is that's like the IPO for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's been a really interesting growing niche asset for a long time, but when the IPO happens, when everybody has it in their retirement funds, then it's going to be Katie bar the door.
We have two bills that deal with crypto framework legislation and regulation here in the United States. First, a stablecoins bill. This bill passed out of committee, the House Financial Services Committee, with bipartisan support. It creates a dollar-for-dollar, fully regulated stable coin for use on a blockchain, dollar-denominated. Secondly, we created a regulatory framework that directs the SEC and the CFTC as to what the rules of the road are. And we provide investors, innovators, consumers how to actually invest safely and securely in cryptocurrencies and in digital assets, and also to innovators what the rules are. They go to the SEC right now and they don't know if they can even have a digital asset project and raise capital around it.
So it reminds me of the old cartoons where they go that way. So whose fault is that? The SEC points at Congress for not doing anything. Congress points at the SEC for not being more clear. How does this finally get, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
And how does it finally get rectified? Is it Congress's fault or is it Gensler's fault?
Well, I don't think it's anybody's fault. This is a new, dynamic, innovative market. Web3 requires us to consider our regulatory framework and look at it differently. We want a fit-for-purpose regulatory framework, and I think that's the failure, is the CFTC and the SEC actually don't have the tools to look at this new form of ownership and individual action, whether on the investment side or on the innovation side. And so we're giving them those tools. And I think that fit-for-purpose approach, both at the CFTC, the bank regulators, and at the SEC will help innovation and keep that money here in the U.S.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And don't forget to join the Patreons. If you're not a part of the Patreons, make sure you're hitting the cash out. And we have Brian Brooks on Binance. $4.3 billion settlement, and it wouldn't affect the company. Come on now, it takes them about 7 years to pay that. Remember, FTX went down for about $5 billion. But we know Brian Brooks was the CEO for Binance US just for a little while. And then all of a sudden, as FTX is going down, the heat is on Binance. Remember, guys, this is all a movie. And yes, Bitcoin hasn't pulled back. But we also know who's pumping it, and that's the Fed. Remember, we've been going up all year for no reason. It's been all news. And the same way with tech. The Magnificent Seven got all the money just by them saying AI. But we know in 2024, the emerging markets are going to start flipping the switch to the fourth industrial revolution. And like I told you, the United States will do regulation in 2024 and we'll flip the switch in 2025. And the congressman states that regulation is in for stable coins and it'll be 1 for 1. Imagine how that's going to change the banking system. And that's the reason why these small banks can't survive. The large banks will be the last ones standing because we know in this new economy we need plenty of liquidity. Really, nothing is going to be real. And I told you that in Europe and the United States, stable coins and CBDCs are illegal, but we know the NWO's power of the pen. They're just building this new financial system on top of what we already have. And then we have Jay Clayton speaking about Elon Musk. And guys, we know when it comes to politicians, Democrat, Republicans, they play the Hegelian dialectic, but they're always moving towards the NWO's agenda. Because when it comes to doing something for the people, it never happened. And we had Elon put on a show yesterday. And Jay Clayton talks about Elon furthering mankind. And Jay Clayton is playing the Hegelian dialectic. Because we know Jay Clayton and Elon Musk are on the same side. Elon is pushing the fourth industrial revolution, where the machines replace humanity in the workforce. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
I think the SEC's been asleep at the switch when you look at
there you go.
FTX particularly. No, they are, but they don't have the tools to use. And I think Gary Gensler has done a very bad job as chairman on this topic by not coming to Congress, following the president's guidance, actually, in his executive order, asking for a regulatory framework that has a legislative background. I don't think you can solve this by trying to cram the crypto and digital assets infrastructure and ecosystem into the existing laws, and that's what Gary Gensler has tried to do. I think he's failed at it, and that's why I think it's come to a head that Congress needs to act here, both on stable coins and in the general regulatory framework for innovation in this country.
And how do you handicap it by the end of this year? Is it, and which party would be the cause of it to go down in flames if it does?
Well, I don't anticipate it this year, actually. There was an effort made in the Senate to add some banking bill topics to the National Defense Authorization Bill. That didn't really go anywhere. That was a potential opening for perhaps the stablecoins legislation. But we want to go to the floor with both the stablecoin bill and the framework bill early in 2024. Okay. It'll be both the House Ag Committee and the House Financial Services Committee working on it. They'll be bipartisan, and I expect us to be successful early in 2024.
Early in 2024, and then a spot Bitcoin ETF comes right after that?
Well, look, the consumers want a Bitcoin ETF, and one of the things our bill does actually is create oversight for the spot market for Bitcoin, for the CFTC from a regulatory point of view, which has been one of the impediments to getting an ETF approved. But I think those applications are near completion at the SEC. I think it's something that will benefit institutional and individual investors.
You should say, I want to get your thoughts just for reacting to that. But you also brought a suit and ultimately settled a suit against Mr. Musk.
Well, look, congratulations on an amazing day and an amazing interview with Musk.
Thank you.
And maybe start with his comments on ESG.
What was interesting about that was the sort of ESG piece of it, and sort of how he thinks about ESG and how he thinks about the climate, and then how he politically, I think, has moved to the right, in part because he feels, right, that the Democrats and the Biden administration have not been as generous and kind in spirit about his own accomplishments and Tesla's success.
More than that, though.
No, but I think it impacts him deeply. And then I think there's some views about what he would describe as the woke mind virus and other things around free speech.
You heard what he said about old Twitter. I mean, that was unbelievable what he said. He said it was a megaphone for the Democratic Party.
Right. No, and that was
just said exactly.
Well, let's go to something I hope I know a little bit about, which is regulation. And your dialogue with him around regulation, I thought was pretty remarkable, because he said a couple things. He said, one, look, I'm remarkably compliant across my companies with oceans of regulation. There are some that I disagree with. And what I think he was saying, and we can get back to the SEC, was, look, what is the purpose of regulation, and where is the Biden administration going with regulation? Is it regulation for regulation's sake, or regulation to further mankind? And there's no doubt that he feels that he genuinely is trying to further mankind.
Right.
And that where regulation is in the way of that, he says, look, I should not, I'll try to follow it, but I shouldn't have respect for regulation that is really there.
Right. But here's the thing. He did not appreciate what you were doing at the time. Right?
I don't think anyone doubts that he violated the securities laws.
But here's a question for you, and this is the thing I think everyone was grappling with. And I tried to grapple with him, and you try to meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. He said, I don't care about being liked or disliked, and that's it. Or, hate me, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But what I kept trying to go back to is the idea of trust. I assume that somebody like Elon Musk has to be trusted, ultimately, for all of these businesses to work, for advertisers to advertise on X, for you to decide to buy a Tesla vehicle, for the government to decide to work with SpaceX and all of it. And the question, because this goes to rules, laws, how do you think about that in him?
Well, let's look at the market and what the market says about trust. And I'm not going to go to the financial markets. Let's look at the market for engineers. If you talk to engineers, people who want to be involved,
they want to work for him.
They want to work for him.
They do.
If you want to work in aerospace, if you want to be a rocket scientist, you want to be the cutting edge of ingenuity, you want to work for him. If you want to be in artificial intelligence,
you want to work with him.
You want to work with him. Now, talk about trust. I mean, that's your career. That's your putting bread on the table. That's your what I would say is your accomplishments as a human being, what you spend all the time in. That's a remarkable state of affairs.
Great answer.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.